Hi there, I'm Taylor from So What Box, and in this video we are going to learn how to make these cool round baskets. Now there are three sizes of these. I have two here to show you. There is one larger, but if you make all three, they can also be cute little nesting baskets as well. They fit inside of each other and everything. So the cool thing about these awesome baskets is no matter what size you are making, these steps are the same. So the following tutorial video just has one set of tutorial steps videoed, and that will allow you to make any of the three sizes. Let's get started. The first pieces that we are going to work with are the circle of the fusible fleece, this large rectangle of the fusible fleece, and a matching pair of these fabrics. Now, one circle and one rectangle will be the outside of the basket, and one matching circle and rectangle will be the lining of the basket. Now, either way works, just make sure that we're working with matching fabrics so that we don't get one outside with this color bottom and this color sides. So we're going to set these aside for now. And our first step is going to be to iron this onto these. Now you can feel this fusible fleece and feel that one side is smooth and one side has bumps. The bumpy side is actually the glue, so we're going to set that down with the bumps facing up, and then we're going to put the wrong side of the fabric facing down on top of that. We want the pretty side or the right side facing up, and then we're going to just put our iron down on this, and that's going to heat up the glue dots and make it stick onto this fabric. Now my iron is set at a cotton setting, which is high heat. That will melt this fusible fleece. So that's why we are doing it with the fusible fleece on the bottom and this cotton on the top. Also, it takes a lot more heat to get through this thickness of this fusible fleece to the glue than it does to get through the thickness of this cotton fabric to the glue. So again, we're going to lay this rectangle piece with the bumpy side up, and then this fabric piece with the pretty side up, lining it up all the way around. And then I like to start in the middle, just so that that holds everything where it needs to be. And don't just scoot this like you're ironing. You want to pick up a little bit and move over and then set down. We want to make sure that this doesn't get dragged or moved while we're doing this, because we don't want those pieces to go side to side and get uncentered. Now you can check to make sure that all the corners and everything did get attached. If yours didn't, you can just set it back down and repress that spot. Now we're going to set this circle aside for now, and we are going to bring out this skinny piece. This is our accent piece, and we are going to line it up at the top of our fabric. So this fabric has a direction, so I want to make sure it's at the top. I don't want these birds to be upside down when I sew this on here, because this is going to be the top of our basket. So make sure if your fabric has a directional print, we're pinning this along the top edge, and we're going to line up the ends and the top edge here, and we are going to pin in place. Now we're going to go to our sewing machine and stitch along this top here. Remember, our seam allowance is 1/2 of an inch. It's also going to be helpful if you reverse stitch at the beginning and end of this stitch line. And if you do happen to be having issues where your sewing machine is making weird stitches or it doesn't want to stitch very well at the beginning, make sure that you're reaching here behind your sewing machine. Hold both the top and the bottom threads with your fingers until you've gone a couple stitches into the sewing machine. You want to put tension on the end of those threads. Once that's done, make sure to trim both ends of your thread off. And we're going to come back over to our iron, and we want to open this up, but press this seam down towards this larger piece. Now, we've already mentioned that our hot iron will probably melt this fusible fleece. So what we're going to do actually is fold it under and press it from this top side. Once that's all sewn and pressed, we are going to grab our last rectangle piece and place that on here, lining up with the remaining long raw edge of this small accent piece. Now remember, we are putting the right sides of the fabric together here, and I'm going to line that up with both edges and with that top edge again, and go ahead and pin this in place. Now, when we stitch this together, it's going to be just like what we did on the last step, except for we are going to leave a hole that we do not stitch along here. And that's going to be how we turn everything right side out at the end. So we're going to stitch from both ends to the middle. We want to leave about a 3 or 4 inch hole in the middle here. So I'm actually going to take and mark where I want to start and stop, and I like to do that by putting in a backwards pin here. Otherwise I forget that I need to stop and I just sew through the whole thing, but we do want to leave this open. Now it's going to be important here that you do reverse stitch when you stop. So you'll sew, reverse, sew, reverse, sew, stop, skip to here, sew, reverse, sew, reverse, sew, and be done. The reverse stitching is going to make it so that when we open this and work with this, nothing unravels. It will hold it like if we tied a knot so that nothing unravels as we work with this. So again, we're going to stitch here and stitch here, leaving this hole and reverse stitching as we start and end. Now we're going to trim all of our thread ends, and even the threads in the middle here where we skipped, we want to trim those nice and short. And then we're going to go back to our iron and do just what we did with the last side. I like to just press this flat really quick to set my stitches before opening this up. But we again are going to open this up and press this towards the larger piece. Now on this one, we can do it from this side if we want, as long as we make sure not to touch this fusible fleece with our iron. But I'm just going to come over here to this. If you leave it folded flat and then just open, that should fold it in the correct direction. Just press that flat, and you can see here, since we just pressed it flat, this hole that we left basically disappears. Now we will stitch that up later, but next we are going to fold this in half this way and stitch along this side. Now first we need to make sure that we match up these seams here, otherwise it will look a little bit weird. So make sure that you are matching up those seam lines I like to put a pin right there where I matched them so they don't move. Again, on this, open this up, match up these seam lines exactly, and put a pin right there so they don't move. Then the rest of it, we can just line up along here. And we're going to stitch along here. Remember to reverse stitch at the beginning and end. Again, trim our threads. And then we're going to come back over to our iron. I'm going to press this side that does not have the fusible fleece on it. And then we're going to do this one a little bit different. We're going to press this open with 1/2 going both directions. Now the reason we're doing that is because this seam down here with the fusible fleece and everything would be way too bulky if we put all the layers to one side. So in order to smooth it out and make it not so fat and bulky, we're going to split that bulkiness in half and open it up. Now this is hard to do from the other side, so we're just going to be really careful and go pretty quickly here so that we don't melt anything on this side. Then I'm going to turn around and hit it from this side here, which we're not worried about the heat on this side. So make sure and take your time over here so that we get this all nice and flat. There we go. Next, we are going to grab our lining circle piece and we are going to pin that to this lining side. Now we're going to find the center. So we're going to fold this in half, the circle, put a pin in this fold here. So I go up the fold line and down the fold line. So there's one mark of center. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side, up and back down this fold line. Now when I open this, that's my center mark of the circle. I'm going to do it the opposite way as well. So I'm going to fold this in half, lining up these two center mark pins. Then I'm going to take a pin in this fold to mark that center line, and this side to mark the other one. Now I have every quarter marked. Now what that's going to help me do is get this pinned in here evenly. So I'm going to mark every quarter on here as well. We're going to start with one side being this seam allowance that we sewed. So we're going to flatten this out and mark the fold exactly opposite when it's laid flat. That's going to be one mark. And then we're going to open this and line up, fold it so that the pin that we put in and that side seam is lined up. We're going to fold it sideways from there, put a pin in this corner, and then we will reline those up, make sure we're still lined up, fold over to this side, and put a pin here in this corner. And now we've got 4 pins on quarter marks on both our lining piece and our lining bottom. Now we're just going to line those up. So I'm going to take this and set it in here, line up these pins, the right side of the fabric of the circle down, so we should have right sides matching. Now I'm going to take out one pin and re-pin those together right there. Now I'm going to do that to this one too. So I'm matching these up, removing one pin, and then re-pinning in place. Now this one, remember, gets matched up with the seam line right there. And then here we go, we'll do that with this last pin. And now we have a good starting point. We're just going to work, see how I do this, and you can see that the fabric matches up. We're going to work our way around here, pinning all the way around this circle. Now for this, you want to make sure you do use a lot of pins. It will make your life easier when you get to the sewing machine. Now that you're pinned all the way around, we are going to sew around this circle. Now that might sound a little nerve-wracking, but we're going to put this flat side, so the circle down, so that we can watch and turn this as we sew. We're going to go all the way around, so we're not going to leave any hole or anything. And as you move, you want to move this so that it twists around. Once you've gone all the way around, make sure to trim your thread ends, and then we're going to go around here and just make little cuts towards the stitch line through the seam allowance. That's going to let everything lie flat when we actually turn it right side out. Make sure that you do not cut through your stitch line. If you do, that will leave a hole in the project, so you'll need to go back and re-stitch along the area that you accidentally cut a hole in. And now we're going to repeat those steps with the other circle. Once both circles are sewn in place, then we can do the fun part. We got to find this hole that we left and reach in and turn everything right side out. Now once that's done, make sure to poke out the bottom circle corners very well of the side that has your interfacing in it, your fusible fleece. And then this lining can be put down into that. Now, it kind of looks a little bit weird right now. What we need to do is feel to match the seam right here on this lining piece with the seam on the outside. We're going to match that up all the way around. So I'm going to feel and match it up, and then I'm going to put a pin in it. Feel, match it up and put a pin. All the way around we need to match that. So that means we might have to pull the lining piece up or push it down. Now when we get to the spot with the hole in it, we're going to skip that for now. So I'm going to come over here and work my way back towards the other side of that hole. Now I've gotten to the other side of that hole. What we're going to do is hold on to both sides of the hole and pull tight. And that should automatically close this in a manner where that inside lining piece lines up about where this outside piece is. We're going to pin that in place and put a couple extra pins here just to make sure it holds in place. And then what we're going to do is we are going to top stitch around this edge here. Now that means that we're going to stitch as close as we can to this side of this line. What that's going to do is that's going to hold this flat and in place so that it always looks nice and crisp. But it's also going to, at the same time, stitch through this fold line here where the hole was left, and that'll close up that hole for us. So we're going to go ahead and go to the sewing machine and top stitch around there. Now this might be a little bit small. You can either go like this and put your presser foot on the inside and slowly work around this way. Or if you have a sewing machine that this deck comes off of, you might be able to put this around this arm and stitch on this side and slowly go around. So that's how I'm going to do it. Then again, we'll trim these threads just like we've been doing. And then you can reach into your lining and smooth everything out. And then you have a nice round basket.